2021 seems to be the year of badass witches for me. First, I'm watching WandaVision, which shows Wanda just being the most powerful character in the MCU. And then now I have Salem, who's not only stealing the show, but also proven to be a very, very good main villain for RWBY. I don't know, just something about witches that 2021 seems to be doing really well with. So anyways, welcome guys to another breakdown. Today we're looking at Volume 8, Chapter 9, titled Witch. And like I mentioned in the last chapter, I was really hesitant of what we would get when RWBY returned, if they might have done too much in the first half and might have nothing in the second half, and that the pacing would go back to being slow and dragging like in Volume 7. But after watching Chapter 8, after seeing that they still have plenty of things under their sleeve, and that the pacing was still nice and steady and quick, I honestly had a lot more faith in RWBY. Even when they were hyping up Chapter 9, I didn't feel like they were hyping it up too much or that I'd be disappointed. And when Chapter 9 ended up coming out, I was not even surprised when it ended up being as amazing, even more amazing than I thought it would be. Overall, Chapter 9 was another great episode of RWBY, and I can't wait to go through all the scenes, all the character moments, and all the fights, give my thoughts, and also what might happen in the future because of what we got today. So without wasting any more time, let's get started. Before that though, real quick, just want to say thank you guys for watching. If you end up enjoying this video, then you can like the video. It really helps out. If you want to see more of my videos, you can subscribe so you know when I upload next. I do not only Rooster Teeth stuff, but Miraculous Ladybug. Also, when RWBY is over, I plan on continuing my WandaVision reactions as well as anime reactions in the future. So if that sounds interesting to you guys, then subscribe so you know when I upload next. All right, now let's really get started. So how I'm going to break this down so I don't like go all over the place, I'm going to be talking about the battlefield first, and then what's inside the whale, and then finally that big battle at the hangar. So let's start with the battlefield, and we have a lot to talk about in this one, mainly with Marrow, and how I feel like what's going on with his character and where his character might end up. For starters though, we get another great opening shot of the battlefield. I really like how RWBY is showing off this battle, the grandiose of what's going on. In Chapter 7, we had that great shot of going inside the battle and just seeing just how big these Grimm were compared to the little tiny humans. And then we also got that other shot with the Aesops looking down at the whale in the battlefield below. They really did a really good job. And also in the last chapter with how the battle looked in the air with May. All these shots looked really good, and RWBY is doing a really good job at showing just how big this battle is. We also see dead bodies all over the ground. It's clear that we are losing a lot of huntsmen and huntresses to this war. Meanwhile, Salem is just bringing out more and more Grimm, and it seems really endless. So it's really clear that Ironwood is losing this war, which is something the opening basically told us with him losing all his pieces. Meanwhile, Salem is just advancing more and more for Grimm. We also get a return of Team Funky in this chapter. And I really like how they played up that these guys were just kids and that they were forced to go into the battle. Another reminder that Atlas is really on thin ice and that they are basically using as much as they can, using any soldier that they can, even if it means the students. And I like how the writers showed that these guys were kids. You have Team Funky trying to bring a little bit of humor to similar to Yang, calm their nerves and hide their fear. And you could tell that these guys are really scared of what's going on and what they're gonna have to do. Like they're facing this army of Grimm, something they haven't had to do since Beacon, and this is even bigger than Beacon. So this is even scarier. And showing that to us just shows how real these characters are. This honestly reminded me of the Genin and Naruto Shippuden when they had to fight when the Leaf Village was under attack. Like, Atlas is just using as much as they can, which honestly makes complete sense. Like, they're huntsmen and huntresses, so even though this is earlier than expected, they did expect to have to fight eventually. So yeah, we got a really good moment with these guys. We also got nice little action shots, a lot of good team attacks. We had Marrow and Harriet. We had Flint and Neon. So yeah, it was really short, really quick, but there were really cool like action moments that we had with them. Once again, showing the grandiose of the battle. I feel like there was no part of the battlefield that felt empty or slow. Like everywhere felt very chaotic. And so, like I said, RWBY's doing an amazing job showing off what's going on at the foot of this battlefield. And now focusing on Winter and Marrow. So the bomb is ready, it's set. They're gonna place it, and so they can set it off. Meryl completely disagrees with this and asks Winter, how would you feel if Weiss was in that whale? How are you going to tell Weiss that you blew up her friend? And this is something really telling for Meryl. Right off the bat, I'm just going to say, I feel like Meryl isn't cut out to be a huntsman. I feel like this isn't the job for him at all. Well, maybe he can do like small jobs like rescuing a cat or guarding wealth or a person or something like that. But when I feel like when the kingdom is in danger and people need to fight and things get dark, I feel like Meryl just isn't a person cut out to be a huntsman. And maybe that's going to end up him quitting being a huntsman and trying to do something more like civilian like. The reason why I say this is because of two things. One, when we go back to chapter 7 and Ren says, I can tell that you want nothing to do with this. When he said that, I already felt like it was more than just he doesn't want to be a part of this situation, but rather he doesn't want to be an Aesop, period. Like, he no longer wants to be an Aesop like he did back in Volume 6, and how it was more exciting and how he felt like it was part of this great S-class team. I feel like now he feels like it's nothing more than just a weight on his shoulders, and that just the decisions that they have to make is not one that he agrees with, and that he just wants out. He just wants out of being an Aesop. Now I feel like he just wants out of being a huntsman. And the second reason why I would think that is because he doesn't realize just how dangerous this job is. Like, yes, there are sacrifices that need to be made. There are chances that people younger than you, older than you, are going to have to sacrifice themselves for the mission. And I feel like Meryl doesn't understand that. And the reason why I say that is because, one, Meryl is so surprised that Atlas has to use some of their students to defend the kingdom. Listen, you guys are not winning this battle. You guys are losing. So yes, you're going to need some students to defend the kingdom from the Grimm that are coming towards the citizens who you guys are supposed to protect. Yes, it sucks that they have to use students, but if you notice, Atlas isn't using all of their students. It's not like they're just bringing freshmen fresh out of first period and having them and putting them in armor and having them fight Grimm. You can see that some students are told to go into the bunker with the rest of the civilians. It looks like Atlas is only picking the best students that they have, the ones that show exceptional promise and show that they can handle themselves in battle. So it's not like they're sending everybody out to fight. And yes, it still sucks that they have to fight, period. But this is the job that they signed up for. It's similar to what Oscar said to Hazel back in Volume 5, how Gretchen knew what she was getting into as a huntsman or as a huntress, and she knew that there was a good chance that she would die. These kids knew right away when they signed up that they would die. This is not an easy job. So they knew what they were getting into when they first started. If you want these kids to be safe, if you want to protect them, then you can't just stare at them and go like, oh, they're just kids. You need to get out there and take out as many Grimm as you can so to keep them alive as long as possible. Meryl doesn't get that, so Elm has to be there to be like, you can talk about ethics later. Right now, we need to defend the kingdom. We need to defend these kids. Let's get out there and fight Grimm, you know? And I feel like Meryl doesn't get that. Not 100%. Because even after that, you have him confronting Winter and asking her, what would you do if Weiss was the person inside the Grimm? Or what are you going to tell Weiss when you tell her that you blew up her friends along with that whale? And no doubt Weiss is not going to take that well because Yang is a part of that group and that's her team, that's her friends. And of course, there's still like John and Oscar and Ren. She cares about these people. But just like with Team Funky, Team Yang knew what they were signing up for. Winter even told them that, all right, you have until I have the bomb set and ready. So yes, they knew what they were getting into when they went into that whale. They knew that they weren't just going to have to worry about the Grimm and Salem. They would also have to worry about getting out in time before that bomb goes off. So they knew what they were getting into, but they took that risk anyways for Oscar. They didn't say, don't use that bomb at all until we get out. They said, we will get in. We understand we have a set amount of time before you guys blow up that whale. So there's a good chance that we can die too. They know what they're getting into, Meryl. They know they're huntsmen and huntresses. So you have to understand that, yes, there is sacrifice. There's a chance that you will die. You can't treat these guys like kids when when we're in a situation like this. So yeah, I feel like Meryl doesn't 100% understand what it means to be a huntsman and huntress and what that sacrifice can bring. Now, speaking of Winter's decision, Winter's and Ironwood's decision are actually very similar, but at the same time very different, and which is why I agree with Winter's decision, but I don't agree with Ironwood. Like I said, Team Yang knew what they were getting into when they went into that whale. They understood the sacrifice that they could be possibly making and went inside that whale anyways. So Winter is completely in the right. It still sucks, of course, but like I said, the team knew what they were getting into. Mantle, on the other hand, did not sign up to be sacrificed. They didn't sign up for Ironwood to use them as cover while he goes into space and escapes with the relic. That is, the people below, the people in Mantle were just citizens. So sacrificing them is wrong because you can't. Because if you start just sacrificing civilians, then it's like, all right, why did you become a huntsman again? Like, I understand the whole greater good thing, but at the end of the day, your job is to protect the people. If you're sacrificing the people, then what are you doing? You're just saving your own skin. So that's why I lean more towards Winter than I do with Ironwood, and why I think Winter is in the right while Ironwood is not fit to be a leader. But yeah, those were my thoughts of the battlefield and what's going on there. It's really interesting. I feel like there's a lot of like strong dilemmas with the characters. I like how they have Winter, not like this situation, doesn't like where this is going, but understands that this is something that she has to do anyways because they can't wait for Yang and the others to get out because they could already be dead. And if they're dead, then what, are they going to wait all day and have more and more Grimm come out and kill more of their people while they wait for people who are already dead? So yeah, I completely understand Winter's decision, and I honestly think that at the end of this volume, Marrow could possibly quit being a huntsman altogether and just live that civilian life, which is not bad. Not saying that's a negative thing for the character, but that's just the way that he is going to go. So moving on, I want to go inside the whale and talk about Oscar and Emerald and Hazel, as well as Team Yang. So talking about Oscar and Hazel and Emerald first, we meet back with Oscar, where he's reciting a fairy tale called The Girl Who Fell Through the World. And this seems to be connected to Salem, I imagine. When I first heard this fairy tale, the first thing that came into my mind was Salem falling through the sky and then landing inside the God of Light's pool of water and then becoming immortal. When she hit that water, she was never the same. She became somebody new. And ever since then, her life completely changed and then, went downhill from there. So I wonder if this is connected to Salem. Of course, Salem and Ozpin have a ton of fairy tales dedicated to them over the years. That's what happens when you live a long life. So that could possibly be Salem. I also like, though, how Oscar is able to relate this to himself. He is no longer the same boy that we saw back in Volume 4. That farm boy who's just trying to get by, not wanting to be different, and then Ozpin having to push him to leave home. He's now basically a huntsman, going out there, sacrificing himself, and he likes the person that he is. I do like how they mention how the girl, though, didn't like who she became when she returned back home. And I wonder if that's a hint to Oscar's future, because we saw what Oscar had to do at the end of this chapter, how he had to sacrifice Hazel. Hazel wanted to be sacrificed, but how he had to pull the trigger and possibly kill Hazel to give the team enough time to escape Salem. So if Hazel is dead, then in a sense, Oscar had to kill him. So I'm wondering how he's going to have to struggle with the fact that he had to do that. I really do like the connections that's going on throughout this whole chapter. The topic of sacrifice is being thrown around a lot in this chapter. And I like how characters are dealing with that topic differently. So yeah, Oscar has changed over the years, and I feel like what's going to happen after this chapter, he might not like what he's turning into after all. It's definitely just, it's a very complicated situation that we're in. Oscar does want to be a hero, but he's wondering how far. I think he's now realizing just how far he has to go to become that hero. So I'm interested to see how that character deals with this change. I also do like the little moment that we get with Ozpin here. He's not around as much as he was in volume 4, 5, and 6. Then he was a little bit more intrusive in Oscar's space, taking over him whenever he saw fit, and basically guiding Oscar along the way. Now Oscar's making his own decisions, and this means Ozpin taking a more back seat, which I like. But also at the same time, it's really nice to hear his voice. I really do like Oscar. I really do like Ozpin, and I really do like the relationship that they have, which is Oscar Still not 100% sure how to feel about Ozpin, but Ozpin like wanting to be there for Oscar and really trying his best to keep him safe, not just for, of course, his own benefit, but also Oscar's as well. The last thing that they discuss in this torture room is the fact that every single time that Oscar uses magic, he could feel Ozpin connecting more and more with him, which is a really interesting handicap. We all want Oscar to use his magic because, you know, since Volume 5, we've been talking about how Oscar is going to be taking Ozpin's skills and basically becoming a mini Ozpin as far as skill set. I personally have always wanted to see, you know, Oscar step into the battle a lot more and use his magic and use his skills. But now it seems like the more he uses it, the more he becomes Ozma, and he doesn't want to become Ozma. That's the last thing that he wants. And this realization adds weight to when he does use magic, because we see him use magic at the end of the chapter. And when he does use it, you know, he is becoming more and more of what he doesn't want to be. But he's willing to sacrifice his own free will to save his friends. And I like that so much. Once again, sacrifice being thrown around more and more in this chapter. It adds a lot more weight to when Oscar uses magic, and it also is a really good reason why he doesn't use magic as much. He doesn't want to become Ozma, but his strongest tool, his strongest weapon, which is his magic, is the exact thing that will lead him towards becoming one with Ozpin, one with Ozma. So I think that's a really cool addition to Oscar's character, and a really cool addition to Oscar's skill set and handicap. So moving on, Hazel takes Oscar to the relic room, and Hazel's plan basically is, you summon Jin. If you're lying to me, I will beat you until next week. But if you're telling the truth, then I know that what you said about Salem is also true, and that all she wants is to destroy the world in order to destroy herself. And I really like how when Jin is summoned, Hazel doesn't need to ask a question. He doesn't need to ask what Salem's plan is. Here, he trusts Ozpin now. He trusts Oscar, especially. I feel like if Ozpin was the one to tell him Jin's name, even if Oscar summoned Jin, Hazel will still think that this was a part of Ozpin's big plan. So I like how Oscar was used to have Hazel switch sides. I like how Oscar was the one that fully was responsible for Hazel switching sides. I also really like Hazel and Emerald's shocked expression when Jin was summoned. Now you can just add that to the list of shocked and possibly flustered expressions that we get from the main cast. Jin always knows how to make an entrance. Speaking of Jin, I really like how she looks in this chapter. She looks way better than she did in Volume 6. And in Volume 6, I didn't even have a problem with her. But now comparing Volume 6 to this chapter, she did look a lot more Barbie doll-y, like plasticky, you know, very like solid. But in this one, she looked a lot more like see-through. She looked a lot more otherworldly, you know. So I like how, just like everything else, the animation and the look of Jin just keeps improving with each volume. So Hazel, now knowing that Oscar was telling the truth, goes, all right, we need to get you out of here, and we also need to get Emerald out of here. I do like how protective Hazel is with Emerald, and even Mercury. I've always felt like it's always been the three of them in a hornet's nest. Like, they're the only sane ones in Salem's group, because compared to like Tyrion and Watts and Cinder, they kind of just are stuck in this team. Like, I know Hazel did some horrible things, but he seemed like compared to like Tyrion, like I said, and Watts, he seemed a lot more level-headed, seemed a lot more like aware of what was going on, and like disgusted and even like afraid of what's been going on. And I feel like he realized that Emerald and Mercury are like that as well. So he realizes that this is not a safe place for Emerald. We're getting you out of here as well. So I do like that. Even Mercury, to an extent, even though he's like pretending to drink the Kool-Aid, it's clear that he is not a big fan of this whole situation as well, and that he at least has doubts. He does have a lot of doubts, and I feel like Emerald, now that she's on the side of good, or at least she's not on the side of Salem, she has the chance to save Mercury and get him to see that stuff's pretty fucked up on Salem's side, and that he needs to get out of there as fast as possible. Also, Neo, I did not know that she could camouflage, but I guess it does make sense, because if she can dress herself to look like a person, why can't she also like dress herself to look like a piece of the wall, you know? So yeah, it does make sense if you think about it, but Yeah, it was a big surprise. So I do wonder what Neo's plan with with Jin is. Like, is she gonna ask a question? If so, not even how is she gonna ask a question, but what question could she possibly ask? Is she gonna give the relic to Cinder? I kind of doubt that, because throughout this whole volume, Cinder's been doing nothing but disrespecting her. So I feel like they're setting up for Neo to ask a question, but what question is she gonna ask? I feel like she doesn't care. Like, she cares about Salem destroying the world, but does she care to find out the truth with her Salem, what Salem is after? I feel like she doesn't have enough stake in the Salem situation to like go like, what is Salem after? I feel like that's not something that Neo has ever been interested in. She's more interested in Ruby. You know, she still hasn't met Ruby yet. I feel like that's her goal in this series. So I'm wondering where this is going with Neo taking the relic. Could she be asking where Ruby is? You see, this is also the matter of this being Jin's last question. So this needs to be a question that is satisfying to us. So just asking where Ruby is, that's a pretty wasteful wish. Like, the last wish needs to be like jaw-dropping. It needs to be something that we need to, because it's going to be the last wish that we ever see. So it needs to be something that reveals some jaw-dropping fact, or it needs to be some kind of grandiose effects. But if it's just showing where Ruby is, it's like, wow, now all that build up for basically nothing. So I am interested to see where Neo is going with this, and what questions she could possibly ask, or who she could possibly give the relic to. Maybe Roman is still alive and she's gonna give it to him. I doubt that. Doubling back to when Yang and the others arrive inside the whale, they arrive pretty abruptly. I thought we were gonna see how they got inside the whale, but they kind of just cut to them being inside the whale. And then I felt like they kind of teased us with the, oh wow, well that wasn't a whole ordeal, because it was like that moment when characters like do something really amazing and we, the audience, don't see it, and then they just go, wow, that was such an amazing sequence of events. Like, all right, if you're not going to show us what happens, at least don't tease us. But nonetheless, they're inside the whale, and I really do like the dialogue that they have throughout the chapter, or throughout their time venturing inside the whale. I do like how they were able to keep the situation light, but at the same time not force jokes or quips at us. Like, with the humor that we were getting was situational humor. So we were laughing at the fact that they were being awkward with each other, which makes sense because just a while ago they were fighting. So it makes sense that they were a little bit awkward with each other, but the way that RWBY wrote it, it made it very humorous towards us. The only one that was really cracking jokes was Yang, and it made sense why she was cracking jokes is because, you know, she was scared, and she was masking that scare with, you know, humor, similar to like Spider-Man, or similar to any Marvel or DC superhero that likes to crack jokes. They're just doing it because they're tense. And I like how Ren is the one that tells her, you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about seeming brave. You don't need to try and protect us or seem strong when you aren't. And then I like how Yang let down her guard and said, yeah, I am scared. Because it shows us difference between her and Emerald, who also likes to hide fear with like snarkiness and humor. But unlike Yang, she doubles down on that mask. She doesn't reveal, yeah, I am scared. She doesn't admit that. She just goes like, what, me? Scared? No. So another thing I like is Ren using his abilities cleverly. So we know like his base ability is being able to tell what emotions you have. And I like how Ren takes that and uses it to try and find Oscar. You know, Oscar is no doubt probably the person inside the whale that is feeling despair or anxiety. So he knows not to look for Salem, who is probably like giddy and like feeling accomplished, or Emerald or Hazel, who in Ren's mind is probably like, you know, neutral or whatever. He's looking for somebody with anxious emotions. So I do like how they're able to take a semblance and then have the characters use it for different purposes. I think that's very clever. Another thing I like is John helping Ren because he can't cover the whole whale. So John offers to use his semblance to help Ren, and Ren accepts this. It's one thing to see a character, you know, give out a speech and say, hey, this is what you need to fix in your life. This is what you need to fix in your life. It's another thing to have a character give a speech and then practice what he preaches. So it's nice to see Ren contrast his earlier self from chapter 2, where John was trying to encourage Ren and he was just like, fuck off, I'm trying to focus. Here he's like, all right, yeah, sure, I can use the help. So I do like that these characters are working together a lot more. It's good to have tension in a team, don't get me wrong, but it's nice to see a team work past that tension and work well together. We also get a little bit of John characteristics in this chapter as well. I feel like the whole team got a really good character boost in this chapter. John, like I said, included. Ren tells Yang that John is not afraid. And I honestly see this as not him being confident in his own abilities. I'm sure he's confident to a certain extent, but I feel like the reason why he's not afraid isn't because of himself, but rather because he's confident in Ren and Yang. He's confident in their abilities. I feel like he holds all of his friends in a very high position, even higher than himself, which can turn into, of course, something negative. But I feel like in this situation, the reason why he's not feeling any anxiety is because I have Yang and Ren. These guys are both awesome huntsmen and huntresses, and I feel like together we're a great team. So of course that's my headcanon. That could end up not being true. Maybe just John feels like he has just the biggest power level in the group. But in my mind, when Ren said that John is not afraid of the situation that they're in, I took that as he's confident that because Ren and Yang are with him, they can succeed anything, which I think is really cool and really sweet. So going back to Oscar and Emerald's real quick, I did like how Hazel's animation did look like Oscar trying to act like Hazel. I did notice that something was weird when I first watched it, but honestly, I couldn't have expected that Oscar was secretly Hazel and that Emerald was duping all of us. The thing that looked weird for me was like Hazel's facial expression when Salem arrived, like just his like deer in headlights looking shocked face. And like just like it wasn't even fear. It looked like when a kid did something wrong and they know they did something wrong, and then the adult comes in the room and they're just like, I did like that little detail. I thought that was really cool. But yeah, when Yang arrives, Oscar or Emerald puts down that Hazel skin, revealing it to be Oscar, and I thought the reunion between Oscar and the team was really sweet. Oscar is very much like the little brother of the group, so seeing them all together again, I thought that was really sweet. The sweetness gets cut off though when Yang realizes that Emerald is with them. Obviously, at first she does not trust Emerald, and I don't blame her considering what Emerald did to her back in Volume 3. I mean, I'm sure if Ren and Jean found out what Emerald did to Pyrrha back in Volume 3, they wouldn't be so easy to accept them either. But nonetheless, because of Emerald's fear, Ren calls back to the earlier conversation that he had with Yang about fear, and that convinces Yang to at least trust Emerald at the moment and escape with her. I really do like Ren's semblance in this. I was wondering like how much use can you get from Ren's semblance, and so far he's doing a really good job at cooling the situation. So yeah, I feel like Ren's semblance is being used very well here, very useful. This is a very stark contrast to how I felt about Ren and Team Juniper in Volume 7 and Volume 6. This volume, they've all been very useful, and I really love that they're evolving with Team RWBY and being more and more useful. So that's my thoughts on both teams. Both teams were really good, really entertaining. We got a lot of good character moments from Team Yang, and we got a good character turnaround, of course, with Hazel and Emerald. So now switching to the outside of the wheel, which is the big battle. Before I get to that though, I want to talk about Salem real quick. So Salem in this chapter was really well done, really creepy in my opinion. I feel like the animators especially really leaned on the fact that she is a witch. Like from her body movements to her powers, I just felt like they were taking her character to a more creepy level, which I am all for. And I hope that they go even further than that. I did like though, I thought it was really funny. When she found that the lamp was in danger, she did this like over the top hand movement, like you have to find the lamp. And then she rushed forward down the hall. And that moment was so over the top, so early 2000s villain, but I loved it so much. And a lot of it has to do with the OST that was playing in the background. That was also felt very like early 2000s, like very dramatic movement, like we have to get the lamp. And after that rushes off to go fight whatever. I just thought that was a really good moment. I kept replaying it. It was really funny, but at the same time, I don't know, very it wasn't like haha, this was ridiculous funny, but just like I just thought that was really like funny and very classic villainy. I thought that was great. So speaking of Salem's movements, like I said, the character is becoming a lot more creepy, a lot more witch-like, and I like how that's also incorporated into her movements as well. She's able to move really fast, and the way she moves, it seems very like someone is possessed by some kind of like spirit or something like that. It reminds me of like scary movie where you have a ghost take over like a child, and then they're moving from one place to the other real quick, and like, you know, their heads are spinning and all that stuff. It's really creepy. I feel like that really adds to the whole witch factor of the character. This is also the chapter that we get to see Salem fight for the first time. Like, you have the magic, which I really like how they keep the pure colors of the magic. It shows that it doesn't matter. It's not the magic that's the problem, it's how you use it. So you can have like the darkest magic, but you could be a good person. You can have the purest looking magic, but you can also be a very, very bad person. So I really like how RWBY is stepping away from the stereotypical, oh, black and red or evil purple means evil and bad guys. No, you can have pure looking magic, but be a really bad person. You could be using that magic for really bad things. So I really do like that change in the norm. We also get the return of those grim arms that Salem likes using that we saw in volume 6. I like how she's able to quickly use those in battle. You also have to remember that unlike Ozpin or Ozma, she didn't split her powers into 4 maiden powers. You also have to remember that the maiden powers are just Ozma's magic split into 4. So that means Salem is actually able to use natural abilities just like the maidens are. So it's nice that we saw a reminder of that with the tornado that she was riding as she was fighting Hazel. And then finally, we also have the use of the grim body itself. I really love the regeneration animation that they had in this chapter. I didn't have a problem with how it was used in volume 6 in that flashback, but in this chapter, I like how creepy it looks. When Yang blew Salem up and like pieces of her came flying out, I like how it like shoved back inside her and like the grim ooze brought her back together. It was a lot more creepy. It was, like I said, a lot more witch-like. It was a cooler effect. So yeah, I really do like the regeneration animation that we had. And I do like how even when her body is broken, even when she doesn't even have a face, she's still able to move her body. She's still able to use magic, still able to use her grim body to like go after Yang or go after Hazel. So I thought that was really cool. So now focusing on what everybody else was doing during that fight. I do like how Ren is the one that tried to save Emerald. After all, he's the one that can feel her fear. So he's probably the most empathetic of the group. We also get to see Oscar use magic for the first time. Or not for the first time, but use it offensively for the first time. This goes back to what he said back in the beginning of the chapter when he said, every single time I use magic, I can feel our bond growing closer and closer. So this is him sacrificing his free will in order to save Yang and Emerald, which I really like. Once again, it goes back to sacrifice. What are you willing to sacrifice as a huntsman? I mentioned how creepy Salem was. She's very creepy towards Emerald, especially like since volume 6. And I feel like the reason why she does that is because she knows how scared Emerald is of her. Like, I like how this goes back to just Salem's character and how she's able to use people. If you look at Tyrion, she knows that Tyrion admires her above all else. So she knows the way to control him is if he fails or if he's disobedient, then she could just be like, oh wow, I'm very disappointed in you, and she knows that's enough to get him to do what she wants. He's Cinder above all else, or at least she did. I don't know how she feels towards her right now. So she knows she can't use the same tactics that she used with Tyrion. But she does know that Emerald is dead afraid of her. So she knows the way to control Emerald is through fear. So I do like how she's just so creepy towards her, you know, caressing her face, whispering in her ear all the time. It just adds more towards Salem's character as a villain. I think that's a really good detail. And then another person that she gets close to is Oscar, and she goes like, why do you keep coming back? It's funny how she asked that, since she's the one that started all this because she wanted him to come back. I mean, if Salem had just let go, literally none of this would be happening right now. There would be no Ironwood. There would be no Atlas. There'd be no semblances. She would have just lived a normal life, died old maybe, or maybe died in some kind of adventure, and that would have been the end of it. And then she would have rejoined Ozma in whatever heaven or hell there is. I don't even know. She's asking this question, why do you keep coming back? And it's like, because of you. I mean, it's all because of you, Salem. This all goes back to you. So yeah, I just like when she asked that, I was like, what do you mean? But yeah, this is followed up by Yang telling Salem off, basically going, why do you keep coming back? You're the reason that this is all happening to begin with. You know, all this death, all this destruction is all on you. My whole life is the way it is because of you. And this was such a great moment, not only because this was no doubt the best voice acting that Barbara has ever done. This is up there with Volume 5 when Yang was telling Raven off back in the vault. But it's also because it's so true. I was getting like strong Xehanort vibes when Yang was telling Salem off. Xehanort is the main antagonist of Kingdom Hearts. In that series, Xehanort is the big master planner. Because of a lot of his actions, a lot of characters' lives got disrupted and got shaken up, and a lot of like the negative things that happened in their lives happened because of Xehanort. And I got that vibe from Yang's speech because it's so true. Like a lot of, because if you look at it, like Salem is the reason why Summer Rose is gone. She's possibly the reason why Raven left. It's because of her that the Battle of Beacon happened, and that's where Yang lost her arm as well as her friends for a long period of time. Now they're in fucking Atlas in this war, and it's all because of her. So yeah, really a lot of the bad things that happened to Yang specifically, I'm not going to say like Blake or Weiss because like a lot of that has to do with what's happening in their lives. But as far as like Yang and maybe Ruby as well, a lot of the bad things that happen is because of Salem. And then Salem asks, all right, what could I have possibly taken from you? I don't even know who you are. Taking from Thanos, I don't even know who you are. And Yang answers back, my mom, Summer Rose, or Summer Rose, my mom. And I thought that was such a powerful scene because really like Summer is not Yang's biological mom, but for however long she was able to, Summer Rose was a mom to Yang, and she treated her as her own. And I thought that was a really powerful scene. It really gives Summer Rose's character, even though she's not in the room, it shows how kind she is, how she doesn't care. Yang is the daughter of Raven, who no doubt Summer could have possibly been jealous of when she was dating Tai. But despite that, she still treated Yang like her daughter. So I thought that was a really powerful scene for Summer. I thought that was a very powerful scene for Yang. I did think at first that she was talking about Raven. I thought that was when Raven was going to show up because I desperately want Raven to show up. I'm still waiting for Raven to show up. Please, Raven, show up. But I understand that Yang doesn't need to call Raven her mom. Yang does not owe anything to Raven. Raven has done nothing for her but give her grief. So there is no reason for Yang to even consider Raven as a person. Do I think that their relationship can get better, just like the Shnees have? Absolutely. But Raven has to be the one to make the first step. You cannot get redemption unless you do something to earn that redemption. I think that's fair. You know, you can't do all these bad things and then expect people to come to you with open arms. You have to make that first step. I think that's only fair. So we get that cool moment with Yang, and then Salem responds with a really smug her again. And look at that smug face. I mean, look at it. It's definitely the face of someone that's thinking, I know something you don't know. So there's no doubt that Summer is someone that Salem knows, but at the same time doesn't know like personally. Like Summer isn't Salem's number one antagonist, but at the same time she's someone that she's no doubt interacted with recently, so her name is still in her mind. So that's really leaning towards the fact that there's a good chance that Summer is a high-end Grimm and is being either experimented on, or she's already been experimented on and she's become an actual Grimm. So I wonder if we're going to see that possibility in this volume or maybe in a future volume. But either way, I feel like there's no doubt that Salem has done something this summer. So then Hazel arrives. He goes to pick up Oscar, and then he says, "No more Gretchens." And Gretchen has a very strong presence in this chapter. Hazel references her a lot, uses her name a lot. And that's all fine and good. The only problem is I have no idea who Gretchen is. Like, other than being a ex-huntress, other than knowing that she died, other than knowing that she's Hazel's sister, I don't know who she is as a person. And this really affects Hazel's, this is what Gretchen would want, or this is for Gretchen, or no more Gretchen line, because I don't know who she is. And that has to do with the fact that I've never even seen her. I mean, if we had gotten a flashback, then I would have been a lot more impacted by, this is what Gretchen would do. And I'd be like, yeah, this is what Gretchen would do. I saw her. I saw how kind she was. I saw how strong she was. She would definitely fight for what was right. Definitely fight for these children. But I haven't seen her fight. I haven't seen her interact with Hazel. I haven't seen her done anything. She's just a name. And really a faceless name. We haven't even seen what she looks like. So really, this whole like no more Gretchen, it's a cool line. Voice actor does it really well, but as far as like the impact, I feel nothing because I've never met Gretchen. So yeah, that's definitely a negative for me. But yeah, it is what it is. Hopefully, maybe in the next chapter we'll get a cool flashback. You know how anime characters, some of them when they die or right before they die, they get this nice little flashback. Maybe we'll get some nice little flashback with Gretchen and Hazel. I think that would be nice. I don't know if that will affect the impact that we have now, but if Hazel dies before I've ever even met Gretchen, I'm going to be a little bit upset because that means this whole time he's talking about Gretchen. It's like I will never know who this woman is, I guess. I will also never know how she died. So this chapter, Hazel pops off. We get a really cool fight scene with him in Salem, and we get to see him just go all out. It's such a stark difference from Volume 5, because in Volume 5, he was using like one or two dusts, and it was really pretty simple. It was like lightning and fire, and it wasn't anything like, to go crazy about. Here, he goes all out. He puts all of them in, and he turns into this monster. And I love that. It was basically a fight, monster versus monster, and it was very satisfying. One, I like how it was built up from the first half of Volume 8 when Hazel was talking about how he killed Salem over and over. When he said that, I figured that Salem let him win, but I feel like without that prior knowledge, it would have been a little bit weird to just see Hazel be able to do so much damage against Salem. But with the fact that we knew that he was able to do this in the past, it just shows just how strong he was, and we were prepared for when Hazel eventually beat the shit out of Salem. But yeah, the fight overall was brilliant. I love the pacing of the fight. It was very fast paced, and I was always wondering how Salem would ever fight someone like, one-on-one without a weapon. I was worried that it would feel dragged, it would feel like awkward, but because of the fast pace and because of the really good choreography, and because like they just kept throwing one thing after another, with Salem throwing energy bolts, and then Hazel creating a giant boulder, molten boulder, and then Salem attacking him with her grim arms, like one after the other. It just kept the fight interesting and kept the fight fast paced. So yeah, overall it was a really good fight. Actually, not even overall, just completely the fight was really good. Of course, I wish it was longer, but the amount that we got was really good. And this is a good example of what I wanted with the Hound. Salem has all of these different abilities, and she's using them. The Hound, I feel like his fights were way too quick, especially since he had so many other abilities I wish I could see him use at once, which we saw with Salem. She used regeneration, she used creating new arms, she used tornadoes, she used energy bolts, she used all of it at once. So that's what I want. That's why I said that the Hound fight wasn't as interesting as I wanted it to be, because it wasn't like what the Salem fight was. So yeah, I liked how she was able to use all of her abilities, not even all of her abilities, because she probably has more, but use multiple abilities in one fight and in a quick pace. Also, I put in my notes that Hazel was using a bunch of elemental powers. He's basically like a makeshift maiden. I can also honestly agree with that. I feel like he could give Raven and Cinder a run for their money. I don't know. Tell me what you guys think. You think he has like the potential to be a threat towards at least like maybe a starting maiden? Maybe not like a maiden at their prime, but like a maiden that's learning. Also, of course, I would notice the Henry Cavill gun fists that Hazel did before attacking Salem. Like, this guy is just a beast. They really did this character justice. I don't want to hear that the male characters in RWBY are lackluster, because, I mean, you got characters like Hazel, like, just putting in work and being the star of, right now, the whole volume. It ends, though, with Hazel doing the ultimate sacrifice, holding back Salem as he burns her like the witch she is, and tells Oscar to finish them off, both of them at the same time. Of course, it's not going to finish off Salem, but it will hold her back for possibly a couple hours, which in a volume that takes place in only 2 days, that's a long time. And then the chapter ends abruptly after Oscar uses this giant beam of magic, once again using magic, once again combining himself even further with Ozma. And yeah, that's the end of that. The 2D beam was honestly a little bit weird to see. I felt like that was very like janky, especially with all the 3D around them. But nonetheless, it was really cool. It was a perfect way to flash to white and then end the chapter. But yeah, those are my thoughts of the chapter. That's my breakdown. Overall, this was another great chapter, even better than the last one. We got to finally see Salem in action. We get to definitely see a lot of sacrifice in this chapter as well. Sacrifice from Oscar, from Hazel, from the kids, from Yang's team, from Winter. I definitely feel like sacrifices was the name of the game in this chapter. And I wonder what Meryl's going to do in the future, if he really is going to continue to be a huntsman, because once again, I feel like he isn't cut out for the role, because I feel like he doesn't realize just how much you will sacrifice as a huntsman. All these kids are prepared to do it, so you don't have to like worry about them or feel like this is wrong. This is the job. This is the job. It's not like she's trying to blow up civilians. These are huntsmen that know what they're getting into. But yeah, I do wonder what Neo is planning to do with the lamp. I wonder who she's going to bring it to, or if she's going to use it herself. And if so, what question is she going to ask? What question are we going to get with Jin? What is the final question that we're going to get with Jin? And is it going to be satisfying? Because that's going to be the last question. Maybe not the last time we see Jin, but the last time we're going to be able to see a question be used. So I'm really excited to see that. I'm really excited to go back with RWBY and Penny and the others and see what Cinder is going to do with Watts and how they're going to be able to take her back. And I'm wondering what Salem was going to look like after that giant beam that Oscar gave her. Is she going to be out of commission for a while? If so, who's in charge? What's going to happen? I feel like it's going to be a real mess for the villains as well as the heroes. But yeah, we still have plenty of chapters to go. I'm really excited to continue this volume. I'm having a lot of fun with this volume. I'm feeling a lot of like new love for RWBY that I felt like I honestly lost after volume 7 and the end of volume 6. But yeah, just hype. I'm really excited. I really hope you guys enjoyed this breakdown. I really hope you guys enjoyed the chapter, and I will see you next time. Once again, if you like this video, then you can like the video. It really helps me out, and subscribe to see more of my videos. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Bye. There's also that comment that Yang made about there not being any happy endings. If what she's saying is true, now I'm a little worried about how RWBY is going to end. Like, is this foreshadowing to the fact that, yeah, there are no happy endings even for our characters? I'm a little bit worried. Who's gonna die? Just tell me now. Just rip off the Band-Aid.